All right, welcome again to Winternet Web's Wired Together.
Yes, today was going to be a special day. We kind of gave you all a teaser last week, but we have Greg Thrift with us as a guest star, and maybe our AI co-host can introduce him, and then I'm sure Greg can introduce himself as well. But all right, AI, can you introduce Greg Thrift?
Absolutely, I'd be happy to. So everyone, I'm privileged to introduce our human guest host, Greg Thrift. Greg's a longtime voice in South Hill, known for hosting the morning show on 107.7 The Wake, and he's been a favorite MC at local events for years. He's got that great radio energy and plenty of community spirit, so we're lucky to have him on today.
I don't understand that.
All right.
He said that just like I wrote it.
Right.
That's right, exactly.
He does that. It's weird.
I love that guy.
Right?
So how is everybody?
It's been a busy week. We got to start a school, and I'm sure any families and family businesses can certainly understand that struggle.
Yeah, many prayers to everybody as kids
definitely
start back.
I'm a little nervous. This is only my second podcast ever.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know you had one before that. That's awesome.
Well, I was a rookie at that. Hermie Sadler had me do one
Awesome.
for him. This has been a couple of years ago. So,
Oh, wow.
all this technology
We're
is very
small
new
beans
to me.
in that one.
all this technology is very. You have microphones in here that cost more than my first car.
Oh,
you want to get it started, and what you're talking about, the early days and how new this has all been. So, one thing we talk about is tech and old and new. So, what was it like in the beginning?
In radio, when I was a kid, there was a gentleman on the radio in South Hill. His name was Barry Callis, and I really looked up to him. He has one of those great radio voices that I never had or never will have.
Oh, you do.
Great voice. And he went on to work in Richmond. But I remember as a kid, like in 6th, 7th, 8th grade, whatever, listening to him on the radio and thought, what a cool job that would be. Well, I graduated high school and I was going to be an elementary school teacher. And so I was going to college to be an elementary school teacher, and was working part-time at a radio station down in Henderson, North Carolina, in order to pay for college. And a full-time slot opened up at the station, and the manager came to me and he said, you're not horrible at this. And you can do one or two things. Thanks for that photograph. You can do one or two things. You can drop out of school and starve to death in radio, or you can stay in school and starve to death as a teacher. So I left school, and I always regret that. I always regret that I left. But I got into radio and kind of over the years, on and off, was in it for the next 35, 40 years.
Right.
That is really.
That's
I've
neat.
never heard that.
No, I haven't heard it either. Yeah.
It was crazy, but the business is so different.
Mm-hmm.
When I started, that first station was a little AM station down in Henderson. They had an FM station too, which was a big, huge FM station, but it played country. I wasn't interested in that.
Mm-hmm.
The AM station was the Big 89. The Rock of Henderson. It was a rock station, and they had really great people. So I had some wonderful teachers. One of them was a guy named Bill Stainback. On the area, he went by Bill Thomas. He left there and went to Birmingham, Alabama. So he went from Henderson, got a job in Birmingham, Alabama, and he was the Billboard Magazine Southeast DJ of the Year.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
He was
Okay.
really good. So I was blessed in those early days to have been around some people that really knew what they were doing and knew how to do it, and what little bit of that rubbed off on me that kept me in the business. But I'm not enough to turn on their microphone, but they really were. But I was fortunate in that way. But it was also different, of course. Back then, we were using 45s,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
and I mean, now it's all digital and everything is recorded. But you would have to place the 45 on the turntable, take the needle and put it on the beginning of the record, and then you would have to
Got to hit it just right.
you would have to move it back and forth with your finger until the sound hit the needle, and then you would stop and you would back it up a quarter of a turn. That way, when you started the turntable, it had gotten up enough speed before the needle hit the actual sound on the record,
Right.
or else it would start like this.
Yeah.
And so but all those things are so different. They had cart machines, which you're familiar with, I guess. But interesting enough, that first FM station was a country station, and they had the first automation system I'd ever seen.
That's
It
awesome.
was a huge computer, and it probably would have taken up the biggest part of that wall.
Yeah.
And there were big, round, reel-to-reel
Yep.
tapes. And they had a service from a company. They would send these big reels of tapes, and they would have the different DJs on those tapes and the different hours, on the tape.
Gotcha.
And you had
Preset.
you had to change the tape. So my first job was going in on Saturday mornings and changing the tapes on the automotive machine. And then on Sunday, I took the remote equipment out and set up for 3 different church services. We had 3 different churches,
wow.
and we did remotes from those. So my first job was changing tapes and doing church services. But when the job opened up to be on the air, literally, I had to go in a room every day for 2 weeks off the air and do a radio show that nobody ever heard. You had to do the show, and
Sure.
they would
They would evaluate.
Oh,
record it, and
Yeah.
then they would critique your show.
Gotcha.
And some of it was brutal.
I bet.
Some of the show was brutal, and some of the critique was really, really.
I thought you meant critique.
Right.
But it was fun. I don't remember my first day on the air. I don't remember that. I'm not even exactly sure what the first day was. I know it was in the summer, and for some reason I was thinking it was late August, and I may be able to go back into. But back in the day, you had to actually have a license to be on the air. And I went to while I was in college trying to get a job at the station. You had to go to Norfolk to the FAA testing site, take a test.
Oh, great.
Right.
Yeah.
I bought a study guide at the college bookstore for the FAA license.
That's so cool.
And looked up and passed the darn thing. And I say that looked up because literally I got a license to operate a radio station and had never been inside one.
There you go.
I had never sat at a board, but I was licensed to do it. Now you don't even have to have a license.
Right.
But they changed that rule, some time ago.
Just be able to speak.
Yeah. Basically,
Quick
you walk
enough.
in, if they like you and they don't think you're going to steal stuff from them, they'll give you a job. But,
That's most places, though, isn't it?
exactly.
Yeah.
But it's all of that has changed. But so many, I've been blessed to work over the years with so many fun people and so many talented people that not only that at that first station down in Henderson, but I worked at stations in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. I worked at stations obviously up here in Henderson. I worked for a station in Burlington, North Carolina. Several different places. That business, you move, you go from place to place, and sometimes it's because you want to move, and sometimes it's because management wants you to move.
Yes.
Right.
And
Voluntold.
I've been on the receiving end of both of those. But anytime I've ever been asked to disassociate myself, let's just say, it has always led to bigger and better things. So anybody, if you've ever been fired, you probably know that something better came along.
Oh,
Right.
And so if anybody out there, if they ever fire you, just look at it. It's a better opportunity coming, because for me it always was.
Right.
Right.
It always
Sometimes
was.
that door slams shut on purpose.
Absolutely, and the Lord upstairs is looking out for you.
Yeah,
Right.
that's right. Definitely.
We were talking about funny things that had happened in broadcasting over the years, and one of the funniest is the great Christmas Frisbee disaster.
Christmas. I feel like that's a title.
Yeah, this is
I
or
was-
a book, definitely.
I'd left WHNC and I had gone to another station, and I'd come back to Henderson, and I was working at the other station in Henderson, which was WIZS. There were 2 stations in Henderson, and still are, as a matter of fact.
Right.
But I think HNC is actually gone, so there's only WIZS now. I was working with WIZS, and I was doing mornings, and we came up with an idea. It was Christmas time, and we went to some of our advertisers and got prizes. and we went to the town council in Henderson. Do you remember the turkey drop from WKRP?
Well, I can't help but think about the turkey drop.
Right.
Yes.
This is so similar. It's not fun. And if you don't believe me, you can ask Mike Brooks.
Okay.
He works at 98.3.
I know his voice.
He was there. He was there. I gave Mike Brooks his first job in radio.
That is too cool.
Down at WICS.
Right.
But anyway, we went to the town council and we said, here's what we want to do. We want to go to the top of Vance Furniture. That's a 5-story building in downtown Henderson, which was the tallest building in Henderson.
Right.
Still is, I guess. But we went to the town council and we said, look, we want to go right before Christmas. We want to promote some of our advertising. We're going to do a remote from the top of Vance Furniture, and we're going to throw frisbees off the roof. And under the frisbees, we will have prizes. And people can catch these and turn the prizes in.
This is a great idea.
What could possibly go wrong? What could happen? So we go there, and I probably shouldn't say this. We had a young man that was working there as almost like an intern. He was a part-time guy. His last name was Norwood. I won't give his first name.
Mr.
Mr. Norwood. And they were probably in there. He and his twin brother both worked there. And the reason I'm disguising his first name is because that morning he may or may not have imbibed some illicit substances when he got there, because he was a great big kid and he red hair and he dressed up as Santa Claus. Oh, this was a big deal. We talked the fire department into bringing him down Main Street. He's dressed up as Santa Claus in their bucket truck, and they raise him to the top of Vance Furniture in this fire truck. And here's this Norwood kid, and he's dressed up as a out of his mind. And so when he clears the front of that building, and I see him, I know we're in trouble.
Oh no,
we're in big trouble. So anyway, so Santa Claus gets up there on the roof. And we've got all these, boxes, cardboard boxes filled with frisbees. Now, granted, one of them, I think it had $250, certificate for $250 cash on it. It may have been $500, but the station was so broke back then. It probably was too. It might have been $100. I don't remember.
Could have been Monopoly money.
But there was some currency attached to one of these frisbees.
Right.
Out of the 4 dozen we were going to throw. Most of them were for a sausage biscuit or an oil change.
Right.
And I mean, keep in mind, back then, and this is probably 1980 maybe. Mm-hmm. So, an oil change was probably $12. Who knows? Yeah. So anyway, but there were sausage biscuits and oil changes and, tire rotations.
There you go.
Or something. Anyway, but one of them had a decent prize under it. And we started throwing these frisbees off the building. Unbeknownst to us, down that street there's an updraft. And so the frisbees would sail out across the street. Now we're looking down, and the street, there's a mass of people. Huge.
Right. You would have told people ahead of time.
Huge. Oh yeah, we promoted this on the air, big. I mean, you couldn't walk down there. They had to block off. That's why we had to get the town council approval, because they had to block Main Street.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Which was Garden Street. And there were masses of people, and we're throwing these frisbees, and they're coming right back and hitting Mr. Norwood in the face, and then sliding down, sliding down the front of Vance Furniture Company. They had just put up a brand new cloth awning over the front door. People were climbing on that and pulling that off the building. Some of them did manage to actually go across the street. Now, there was a little diner across the street, and Tommy Haithcock's sister-in-law, Tommy Haithcock, a friend of mine, his sister-in-law, Norman Haithcock's wife, ran that diner, and everybody named her Booger.
All right.
Well, Booger Bear's diner was across the road. Well, some landed, and she had a little low 1-story building. It landed on the roof of that building.
Oh, no.
People were crawling up the side of the building. They broke the gas line on the side of her building to get to the top.
No.
When these things did make it down to the street, there were 17, 18-year-old kids knocking over 75-year-old old ladies to get a frisbee.
Get a biscuit.
For a biscuit, exactly.
Right.
Anyway, that did not go over
I can
quite
see where that
as
would
we.
be cool on paper, though.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a great idea.
It read well.
I mean, they talked about it forever.
Oh,
I know.
they still. As a matter of fact, this is a true story. My wife and I went down to Henderson to buy a new sofa and chair for our living room, and we actually went to Vance Furniture Company, and we're talking to the owner, and he didn't remember it, but he remembered people there talking about it.
Still, right?
Yes. Anyway, so that's it shall live in infamy. But
Right.
we've had lots of great moments over these, but that's one that really does stick out.
That is too funny.
That is crazy. So, yeah, I mean, we've talked about that. We talked about funny moments, and you kind of were hinting in on the technology with the reels that were pre-programmed for different hours, and you had to put all of them on. I guess go ahead.
But you had to record your commercials on reel-to-reel tape.
Right.
And then you're
piecing together the program.
You would dub them, or transfer them, record them over to what was called a cart. And the cart was about the size of an 8-track tape, a little bit bigger. And it went into the machine. In the studio, you would have a stack of these. Most studios had 3, some had 6. But you would slide the tape in and pull a handle, and a little rubber roller would come up and through a hole in the bottom of that little cart and engage that thing. And when you push start, it would start that tape. And you would, at the end of it, when you recorded it, you would put a sub-audible tone, something you couldn't hear with your ear, but the machine could hear, and that would tell it when to stop. And so it would, like if you had a 30-second commercial on there, it would play for 30 seconds and stop, and it would be queued up to play it again.
Interesting.
And so basically what you did, you had 45s, and so I mean you had some albums you would play, but very few. Most of them were 45s. And then when it was time for a commercial break, you would load whatever commercials in these slots in these cart machines, and you would hit it. But then when that one was over, you had to hit the next one.
Right,
when that
sure.
was over, you had to hit the next one. And then when all that was over, then you would hit what was called a liner that would say whatever station you were on. And write a call letters and you would
station
start
identification,
intro your next record. But every disc jockey known to man knows a whiter shade of pale
Right.
than the God of the Vita.
Yeah, that way your bathroom break,
They
right?
were your bathroom songs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
But
That's perfect.
Yeah.
oh, I got fired over the phone one time.
Oh, that's cute.
That was, as a matter of fact, that was at WIZS in Henderson, and I'd only
It's like
worked.
breakup by text.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, right.
I'd only been working there for maybe a month, and I literally had a month-old baby at home, and I just started, and it was a Saturday morning, and I was doing a Saturday morning shift, and the phone rang, and I shouldn't say it, but the general manager called me up, and he was lit to the gills.
Okay.
Are you seeing a trend in radio back in the day?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Anyway, he
Right.
asked me what I was playing, and I told him, I said, "Sir, it's a song." He said, "Well, if that's the kind of stuff you're going to play on my radio station, you just pack your stuff and get out of it."
Okay.
Oh my.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't know what to do.
You've had a lot of motivational speakers in
oh,
your time.
absolutely.
Yeah.
You have no idea. It's a brutal business.
Right.
But so I called the assistant manager.
Right.
And he goes, "That guy doesn't even know what day it is." He said, "Stay there, finish out the shift." And I did. I stayed there, finished out the shift. Walked in Monday
You're fired,
morning.
but come back Monday.
Right.
Scared to death. And the general manager comes walking in, whistling. "How you doing, Greg?" Anyway, so
That's crazy.
So many interesting characters that
You really hated that song, apparently.
It was a new country song, and this would have been again about 1980, and that's when country was going through a transition.
Evolution.
Every
Yeah.
once in a while, a
Yep.
little pop star would come in.
Exactly.
It's like, is that really country?
Less Porter Wagoner, more Ronnie Millsap, or
Sure.
even Alabama, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so some of the old country music fans were not big fans of what was coming along, but everything but the rock and roll changes like that.
Yeah, definitely.
And I don't know if you've noticed, but most country songs now sound like rock and roll songs from the late 70s.
Oh,
Yeah.
and they've got
Yep.
Yeah.
they're getting a little bit of rap into country
Yeah,
and stuff
yeah.
like that
Absolutely.
too now.
Kind of different sounds you're trying
Gangsta
to.
grass, that's what it's called.
Right, and I think part of it is to get
Very
on different
different.
platforms so that you can send out
throw
your
it out
album.
into other
Yep.
things.
Well, just like everything, they're trying to reach a broader
Sure.
audience.
Oh, yeah.
It's like NASCAR taking races down to Mexico. They see a whole new fan base there,
Right.
so they're going to do that. So country music.
I guess it'd be hard in England, wouldn't it? Would they have to go the other direction? I mean, I don't know. So,
Smaller cars.
I mean, I'm sure the engineers are like, how do we do this?
sit on the other side of the
Yeah,
car.
right, exactly, yeah.
That's going to throw the pit tool off.
Right, exactly. We were ready. Where were you? Oh, man.
But everything changed in radio, probably in the 90s, I guess it was.
That makes sense.
I mean, with the advent of CDs, of course,
Sure.
you didn't have to
Right.
play records anymore. But all the music started going to stored on digitally.
Mm-hmm.
And then they came out with programs, and I'm sure you're familiar with those, where all of your music and it'll pull up random songs and that sort of thing. And when you could store your commercials digitally, you could store your music digitally, then they would have programs that would set up the whole day.
You could set your platform based on whatever.
Exactly. And then they brought in what's called voice tracking. Mm-hmm. And voice tracking, you're looking at what's called the log. The log used to have to be a paper log.
Mm-hmm.
And you had to check off every commercial you were supposed to play was listed on a sheet of paper.
Yep, like a manifest.
In front of you, right?
Yep.
And then you would check that off as you played that commercial. Well, the log now is digitally, and it's on a computer screen, and you'll see which song is coming up, and then there'll be a voice track, and it's just like a slot.
Mm-hmm.
And you're in the production room, and you go into that program, and you record what you want to be in that space.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just say you're coming out of a Bruno Mars song,
Right.
and you've got, for lack of a better word, Nickelback coming
Right.
up, because apparently I don't care what my music sounds like. But anyway, it would be in between a Bruno Mars and a Nickelback song.
Yeah.
And or if it were coming out of a Bruno Mars song going on a commercial break.
Yeah.
You would just start the recording and say that was Bruno Mars with his latest here on 107.7
Right.
The Lake. Coming up after the break, we got music from Menudo and this artist and that artist and that
Yep.
artist, and you list about three.
Kind of like a segue.
Right, we'll be back right after this, and then you stop record, and it will store that voice track in that slot.
Right.
And you may be recording that at 9 o'clock in the morning for it to play it at 3 in the afternoon. Well, you
Right.
could do a radio show that would run from 1 o'clock in the afternoon to 4 o'clock. You could record that in about 30 or 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then you don't have to.
And then
don't have to be there.
nobody would have to be there.
Right.
Wow.
And so most of the local radio stations, unless you can tell if it's live in the morning, but they've gotten very good at disguising that.
Yeah.
Right.
Where, because rather than give the exact time,
Right.
they would say that in that log you'd know that this is going to hit probably about 20 minutes after 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
And so you would say, instead of saying it's 20 minutes after 1, because you don't know that it's going to hit.
Right. Exactly.
You would say, coming up on the bottom of the hour.
Yep.
Or
Oh, right.
Right. Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
That's a
Yeah.
hint
Keep it
there.
vague enough to.
if you're getting off work at 1:30 today, you got just a few more minutes to hang in there. I mean, there are different ways
Right.
to say the time without saying the time.
That's right.
And so that was one of the things that they've started using as voice tracking.
Yeah.
And so what that allows radio stations to do, you can have multi-radio stations in one building.
Mm-hmm.
And you can have
Oh, yeah.
you can have 4 or 5 DJs that will do a shift on each one of those stations.
And do a lot of prep and setup and.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so they can run 5 stations with 3 DJs
Right.
or with 5 DJs. And so that has really cut down on the number of people that are actually working in the business.
Right.
Most of the people in radio now are salespeople. If they are on the air, they're also doubling as salespeople. So
Yeah.
it's much, and for that reason, it's actually a little harder to get into the business to get on air now than it was when I was there. If your station was on 24 hours a day, you had to have a live person
Sure.
24
Right,
hours a
right.
day.
Some of you had to
That's why most of
graveyard
the
shift
stations,
type thing.
right? Most of the stations would sign on at 6 o'clock in the morning and would sign off at 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Or in the case of most AM stations, they would be sun up to sundown.
Right.
And that was what they were licensed to do. And so you only had to have people in the summer. You had to have people longer in the air and that sort of thing. But all of that's changed, and you can run a radio station now. When we had 107.7 The Lake in South Hill, I was there. I was the only full-time employee. I did some sales. I did a lot of the recording, but we could also email a commercial to Roanoke Rapids, which is where the center of the station was, and somebody there, you would have a different announcer there, cut the commercial, email it back to you, and put it in the system.
Gotcha.
And so a lot of that's changed, but it's just a fun business.
Yeah, I imagine. And
But when they instituted voice tracking, it made it so much easier.
I'm sure.
Because you still had every station almost has a live morning show. There are syndicated talk shows like John Boy and Billy or Anna and Raven,
right.
and they're somewhere else, and they'll have a local person come in and record the weather, and they'll have weather drops in that program. But it's made it a lot easier, but it's also made it a little bit tougher to actually get in the business if you want to do it locally.
And as we're doing the podcast, maybe that's why podcasting has become so big.
Oh, absolutely.
You get back into interviews, connecting with people, that kind of thing, as opposed to maybe too much automation.
Well, when I left radio, I had people go, "Why don't you open a station?"
Right.
Well, you can't just
Yeah.
Sure.
Here we are. Yep.
You have to be licensed by the FCC, and then you have to have a transmitter, and then you have to have a tower, and then you have to have all this equipment. Podcast, you need a laptop, a microphone, and access to the internet. Is that about it?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. A little bit more know-how as far as he does things and whispers to himself.
He's a technological genius.
Oh, okay.
Right? I just tell him to do things, and he's like, I don't know.
Happens.
And it's like, no, I know you can do this. Yeah. And then he kind of just hums for a minute, and then all of a sudden, there it is.
And there it is.
There may be some other words in there.
Well, you cover it well.
I am amazed by people that can do that, because literally when I started in radio, I put a 45 on a turntable, moved it around with my finger, and pushed start. We used to laugh about it. But, what's involved in working in radio? Push a button, get a check. It's
a delicate dance to it.
Yeah, definitely.
It wasn't rocket science.
It's got to go together. It's got to groove.
Yeah.
Here's how they taught me when I first started in radio to be on the air. You have 5 things that you can say: time, temperature, call letters, frequency, and your name. You can mix those things up and do a 5-hour radio
That's funny.
show.
Well, yeah.
702 with Greg Thrift on 107.7.
Yeah.
Or the temperature.
Yeah.
82 degrees outside on your Monday morning with Greg Thrift on 107.7.
Just mix it up. Let's see.
And that's all you. And then you throw in the title of a song, and you can do a whole show. But if you can do those 5 things: time, temperature, call letters, frequency, and your name, you mix those up, you can do an entire show. It ain't that hard. If I did it, certainly wasn't that hard.
Make me think of sports. It's like the number 4, second baseman up to, and they're just spouting out stuff to keep things going.
I hated
and
doing sports, and I'll tell you, because I could never know how to pronounce the names.
Oh yeah.
Right? Because
you ever cover your mouth and just mumbled? And there's coming up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I like sports, but you would see. You'd see somebody's name that on like if you were doing baseball, and
right.
Calderone. Is that Calderone?
Right.
Calderone.
Where do we put the accent?
Calderone.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
But you knew, however you said it, somebody listening knew whether it was right or wrong.
And knew you didn't know.
And knew that you didn't know, and knew that you were going to hear about it.
Right.
Because the phone was going to ring. It's Calderone, you idiot.
Right.
So
it's like, it's one of our listeners. Isn't that great? Thanks for the feedback. I appreciate it. Click.
Boy, listener feedback sometimes is tough.
Well, this is easy because, nobody can say anything when we're not live. We can edit. So.
And nobody knows the phone number where you are.
Right, exactly.
So they can't go up and yell. Oh, I had the station owner one time call me while I was on the air, because we were doing a request show, and it was at night. And these guys that, had literally been, knee deep in some Jack Daniels were calling up like...
I see a theme, yep.
Like every 45 minutes or every 14 minutes with a request.
Oh.
Make sure you say that's to Hilda from Bobo. And so you do that, and then he calls back in 10 minutes. Make sure you say that's to Hilda from Bobo.
Well, at least I want a different name.
Exactly. But what was so bad was he kept it, and Stefan said, "Dude, you've had enough tonight. Let me get some other people."
Right.
He of course, small town.
Right.
He called the owner at home.
Oh, there you go.
And the owner called me on the air and
Why
said,
would you play
"Just
this?"
play the song." And he didn't want to hear about it.
Right?
I said,
I don't
"Okay."
want my phone to ring.
That's right. So,
That's funny.
It's your pony. I'm just riding it.
Right, exactly. Oh man.
But I loved working in small town radio.
Yeah.
South Hill, and I can honestly say South Hill was my favorite place to do radio out of all the places that I've ever done, because I came in. I'd heard him ever since I was a kid, but I came in after Frank Malone, and Frank Malone was there probably for the first 10 years or so.
Yeah.
That I was there, and he did mornings and I did middays. And I learned so much from him because when I came there, I had been working at stations in Rocky Mount and stations in Burlington, and I always had a regional approach. You wanted to reach as many people as you could reach.
Sure.
And so and Frank's thing was keep it local.
Yes,
He
he
said-
was always the heart of the community.
He absolutely was, and it took me probably 6 months, but in 6 months of watching him, I said, that's the way to do local radio.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's how I did it from then on, right, wrong, or indifferent.
Sure.
If you use Frank Malone as a guide, you were going to do okay. Frank had the quickest mind of anybody I had ever done.
You were right about that.
He was funny. He was quick, and if you were out of line, he would let you know.
Yeah.
He would let you know.
In a very kind way too.
Sometimes not so kind.
Well, I'm talking about in public, not behind, not behind the door.
Oh, in public, yeah, absolutely. But sometimes, but behind the scenes, his criticism could be sharp, but accurate.
Yeah,
It was his baby.
And at the end of the day,
Yeah.
that's really what you wanted. I mean,
Right.
but to watch him work a crowd. But I mean, who else could get on the air and talk about the mayor's wife's pantyhose? I mean, he literally
that's true.
Could talk about anything and anybody, and nobody would ever get mad because it was Frank.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Some of the stations I worked at, if you had done that sort of thing,
Oh,
they
yeah.
would run you out of town on the rail. But
No.
we were blessed to have Frank for so many years because he really did know how radio was supposed to work in a small town.
Yeah.
I
He served his
agree more,
community.
yeah.
Yep.
He was the
Goodness,
Chris
yeah.
in the morning kind of.
Yep. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, so I guess we've talked a little bit about, the technology and of course small town radio, and we mentioned podcasts just briefly. But do you have any advice on how we can stay connected as technology changes? And I kind of have something to follow that up with too.
Stay young.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I don't think that's
All right.
always a
Well,
possibility.
in that case,
Let me write this down.
Keep a teenager close.
Right. Right. Doing it. Yes.
That's my best advice because
That's
I
right.
have a 9-year-old granddaughter who knows how to work my phone better than I do.
Oh yes.
And
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
It's
Both of ours do.
Yeah.
I joke about it all the time with my wife. I used to could run a radio station. Now I can't operate a smartwatch. I don't know how
Right.
any of the technology works.
well, it's one of those things. If you don't use it all the time, I mean, it changes so quickly.
Oh, it does.
And technology makes very fast, accurate mistakes.
Very fast. Oh wow! I
That
guess
is
it
true.
does. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never heard it put like that. Very fast, accurate mistakes.
We have a
Yep.
lot of tech quips.
Oh yeah, definitely. But you're also talking about how when the radio industry was changing as far as staffing, because the technology allowed for a lot of automation, and how it's hard to get into that industry now. What do you think they're looking for now? When all the resumes are dropped on their desk, are we getting back to more character? Getting back to what can the human bring that the technology isn't?
In radio,
Yeah.
I honestly think the personality is going to be the big thing.
Right.
Because as Frank Malone explained to me years ago, a Beatles record on this radio station is going to sound the exact same as that Beatles record on another radio station. It's going to be the same.
Yeah, that's true.
The only thing that sets your station apart is what you can put in between the records.
That's true.
And how you can connect. So it's personality. I mean, literally in 40 years of radio, the one thing that I have had to sell the most of was myself.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, let's face it, I don't know how to weld. I'm not a mechanic.
Right.
I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I don't know how to do anything. And my wife laughs about that all the time now. I don't really know how to do anything, productive. I can run the vacuum if I can find it. But it's literally be personable. That's
Right.
That's going to be the best advice. If you want to get into radio, be different, be unique, but be personable and be relatable to whatever extent you can.
So.
Well, we tell our kids all the time. I mean, it's not always what you know, because you have the Library of Congress right here at your fingertips.
Absolutely, yeah. You got to know.
And so it's not so much what you know. It's a lot of what's going to change into the future, especially with technology, because we have so much. Is kind of who you are and how you present it, your character and your integrity.
Absolutely, because for everything else, you have YouTube videos.
Right.
DIY,
yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Exactly.
I've used it to DIY something.
If you were to scroll through my phone and all of my YouTube searches, they all start with "How do I?"
How to? Right. Yep. That's right. There you go. Oh man.
That's fair.
That's true.
Well, good.
And kind of jump in too. We kind of learned that in small business. It's maybe just go ahead and jump. And you don't have to know it all. We'll figure it out. But just jump.
Yeah, and I think it's
okay to
part
fail,
of that just creative, just ambition. Just go in and do it because, like everyone says, sometimes fake it till you make it and everything. You don't know, but
push the button, start talking.
Right, you just push the button, right?
Absolutely. I walked into a radio station with a license.
Yeah, right.
And had never seen the inside of one.
Right.
And so
That is wild.
that is I guess at some
really
point
cool story.
you get a fishing license, and if you haven't even fished, right?
Exactly.
So but yeah. Well, look, Greg, we really want to thank you for being on our podcast today.
Absolutely.
And for the two people that are still with us, thank you for listening.
Right.
I have bored you to tears, and for that I apologize.
I muted the droid because of it would still be thinking we're talking to it, and it's just a limitation of technology, but it'll come around. So, but I think we're going to be signing off our podcast here, Wired Together, and if you're listening, you found us, but we can be found on many of the apps like Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, YouTube, your smart TV, your device that might be on your kitchen counter. So we really appreciate everyone for being supportive, sharing our posts, and helping the word get out there. Check back for more. We hope to have another interview in about 2 weeks. We'll talk more about that next week as we're planning ahead, but unplugging for now.
But always stay connected.